these probiotics, which is pretty cool, these spores, you can actually cook with them up to like
Wow.
450 degrees. So if somebody wants to put, this probiotic powder into yogurt or oatmeal, or a shake or anything like that, they're going to survive and work just as effectively. It's a clinically studied ingredient called Saffron, and
Okay.
it's standardized so that the leptochrysalides, which are the active ingredient, are standardized. And Saffron has been used in clinical studies at a 28 milligram dose, which is what we have in our product, to help elevate mood. So dealing with anxiety, depression. So we know that it helps for people just to feel better and that it works quickly.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Healthy Habit Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Dayan of Healthy Habit Medical Center. Today, we've got Joyce Moran back with us of Youtheory. Joyce has 18 years of experience in sales and education in the natural products industry. The last 6 years, she's been employed at Youtheory with a focus on training and innovation. As a certified health coach from the Institute of Integrative Nutrition and former health teacher, her passion is to inspire optimal wellness through education. Joyce, welcome back to the podcast.
Oh, thank you. It's great to be here.
I'm excited to dive into this one today. We're talking brain and mood health. A lot of people are looking for support for that. Actually, I was just searching on Google the top health concerns that are searched on Google for 2023 so far. And at least 4 of the top 10 are involving brain and mood, anxiety, ADHD, depression, mental health concerns. So the stage is yours. Where do you want to start us off with today on this topic?
Yeah, so interesting that you did that search because that's what we're finding as well. Just I think the results of stress that cause cognitive health issues and then digestive health issues that impact your brain issues.
Right.
So they're all very interrelated. So I thought we'd just talk just a little bit, starting with just like your gut health and the
Yeah.
impact that can have on your brain. And then talking a little bit about spore probiotics as an option for people. So, it's funny. I think about, I think more when you're little, you used to get really, really nervous and you'd
Mm.
had like butterflies in your stomach. Like if you had to speak in class or you had to do something like that, or when you just have that gut feeling, this really is an indicator that there is a relationship between our gut and our brain. And obviously, studies have shown now that there is something really called the gut brain axis and how your brain health can affect your gut and vice versa. Um, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about, I'm sure you're very familiar with, that connection, but
Hmm.
I think sometimes people don't realize that they might just focus on brain health, but they have an unhealthy gut
Mm.
and that impact that can have. And so it goes both ways. And then we have that vagus nerve, which is a part of your cranial, it's a cranial nerve, it's part of the brain, connects to the brain, but it is the largest communicator between our brain and our gut. So you hear about it more and more. And it's quite interesting the more you learn about it. Um, so we
Yeah.
know like neurotransmitters. So we think about neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. People take medicine to increase their serotonin because they're depressed or they're anxious or they have low dopamine levels and they have very low energy, also affecting mood and pleasure and all those things. So we know these neurotransmitters are created in the brain, but also a lot of them are created in the gut. So when we have a healthy gut, we can be creating these neurotransmitters effectively that will impact your brain as well.
Right. So tell us about then the Spore Probiotic, one of the few Spore Probiotics that we carry here at Healthy Habit Health Foods. It's different from a probiotic. Someone might have heard that and be like, "What? You guys don't have?" No, tell us the difference between a Spore Probiotic and a typical probiotic, and then we'll dive into Youtheory's Spore Probiotic.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. So spores are kind of new. And like you said, there's not a lot of them on shelf.
Yeah.
Most everybody knows what a probiotic is. It's something that I think it actually means for life. So it has to make some impact on your gut. Most of them are what we would call lactobacillus strains or bifidobacteria strains. And we have trillions of these in our body. So what happens is with a traditional probiotic, with a lactobacillus and these bifidobacteria strains, is they are very impacted by heat, air, light, shift in pH, so whatever's going on in your gastrointestinal tract. And what they found is only about 10%. So 10% of that actually ends up having an impact in your gut.
Hmm.
Spore probiotics are, they come from these bacillus strains, and I'll talk more specifically about Youtheory after, but these bacillus strains are what they're encapsulated in these hard protein shells. And spore actually means seed. So it's almost exactly like a seed. And we like to use the whole analogy with gardening when it comes to spores. And I'll talk about that in a moment too. So we used to get these naturally in our soil. But since, over farming and we're not digging in the dirt anymore, we're not we're not putting mud pies, making mud pies as kids, and we're not doing our own gardening, but we are not getting these strains, these bacillus strains into our bodies,
Hmm.
and they are natural and we need them in our body. So what happens is with a spore, when you take it, it's in this hard protein shell and it arrives. We call them, they're designed to, oh gosh, designed to be alive and thrive. So they're going to land 100% into your gut. And then what happens is when the shift in pH happens there, that encapsulation opens and they go out and do something we call, we like to refer to it as weeding and seeding.
Interesting. Instead of if you had a garden, you take a fully grown plant and put it in there already, which would be a probiotic. But in this case, you're planting the seeds in the garden, right? And then we water it so it grows into the appropriate bacteria.
Absolutely. And it
That's
also
amazing.
cleans out. So yeah, just like a gardener, like a good gardener is going to go out, you're going to till, you're going to get rid of the weeds, and then you're going to plant exactly the seeds so that they can grow effectively. Again, putting a bunch of seeds or plants on an unhealthy garden soil, they're not really going to grow. So that's a great analogy.
Amazing. So, what causes those weeds to come up and then have that horrible effect on our mental health, anxiety, depression? What causes that overgrowth of bad bacteria? And how does somebody know it's time for a spore probiotic?
Oh, so many
So many.
things. You
Yeah.
can talk about chlorinated water, processed foods, different medications, stress, refined sugars, EMFs, even from, those affecting our gut, pollution, all these environmental toxins are just very natural in our life now. And those are going to have an impact on your gut health and the growth of unhealthy bacteria within your microbiome or your gut.
When you say refined sugars, you mean like the cookies, cupcakes, pies, muffins, donuts, Krispy Kreme, all that kind of stuff.
All of those, all of the
Yeah.
above, all the things that I forget they say how much sugar the average consumer consumes in a year, but it is, a ridiculous amount of sugar. And, a lot of times it's hidden. It's
Right.
not reading the Krispy Kreme donut,
That's
but
right.
we're eating something we think might be healthy. It's a gluten-free food, but it's also a donut, for an example. We're getting a
100%.
lot of those sugars and they're just, growing this unhealthy bacteria in our gut and causing, digestive issues for people.
I like that you said it's hidden because it's combined with all these fatty, oily foods that are deep fried, and they sprinkle the sugar in there on top of it. So yeah, all these things can cause. I like you said medications. That's a hidden root cause of bad bacteria overgrowth. So thank you for sharing that. So let's dive in then to the Spore Probiotic. Is this in tablet form, capsule? What's the dosage like? You need it every day, or how does that work? On an empty stomach?
Yeah. So, again, we have two options. One is a powder and one is capsules. So I'll
Okay.
just talk specifically about the capsules first. In these capsules, you're getting three of the most researched strains. So those are Bacillus coagulans, Bacillus clausii and Bacillus subtilis or subtilis, however you like to say it. You're getting 2 billion of each one of those strains. You're getting also organic triphala in that particular product, which is a great detoxifier for your body. So it's going to give you that extra support there. And, I like to take them in the evening. I think your body resets then, but, people can take them whenever they want. It's 2 capsules a day. They're very affordably priced. And what people see, there's great clinicals behind them. But the thing with this, Dr. Dehan, is
Yeah.
that it does that weeding and seeding. So what happens is they actually they go into the small intestine and they release something called L-lactic acid. And L-lactic acid goes off and kills off your bad bacteria, pathogens, all the things we do not want to
Right.
have in our gut. And it gets rid of them. It goes out through your bowel movements. And then it allows your body to regrow its own healthy bacteria in your gut. So that's
Wow.
that's the main way that they work. And they stay in there between 7 and 21 days. So they're very cyclical. So recommendations is to stay on it consistently. People will generally see results within a couple weeks, depending on how healthy their gut is to begin with.
So then, how is the powder going to be different from the capsule? Why would someone choose one over the other?
Okay, great question. So the powder also has the same 6 billion, but it also has XOS.
Okay.
So it's a prebiotic fiber. So for people that are looking to really help with their, supporting a healthy microbiome with prebiotics,
Right.
and then adding in the spore on top of that. Those are the differences between the two. Obviously, one's a powder. One really great thing about the powder is it can used, for lots of different ages.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it can be added to water. It just has a very light flavor, a little tiny sweetening. These probiotics, which is pretty cool, these spores, you can actually cook with them up to like
Wow.
450 degrees. So if somebody wants to put, this probiotic powder into yogurt or oatmeal, or a shake or anything like that, they're going to survive and work just as effectively.
Amazing. So if you're looking at the screen here for all the YouTube viewers, I always encourage, if you can, tune into the podcast on YouTube because then you get the whole video experience with it as well. But that's okay if you're on Spotify or listening here in the store as you're shopping. So Spore Probiotic, again, folks, the take home here, it's like a seed, and each Spore Probiotic is covered by a naturally protective shell, as you can see here on youtheory.com. And it literally protects the probiotic until it reaches where it needs to go in the intestinal tract. Is that the best way to explain it? I think so.
Absolutely. That's a simple recap.
Yeah. And again, there's the powder version and the capsule version as well. Really, I always ask people, Joyce, what can you see yourself being most consistent with, a capsule or powder? And then we just go from there, How do you
Yeah,
like approaching that?
absolutely. That's a great way of doing it because, some people do really well with capsules and some people do really well with powders. I know, I have some gluten intolerance.
Okay.
So if I eat something, you go out, sometimes something might have cross contamination and you start getting that bloating, or even anyone's getting bloating.
Right.
You can take 2 of those capsules and it's like pretty immediate that you feel the effects of it working in your body. So that's one great thing. The other thing that I really want to point out
Yeah.
is, we were talking about what things affect your gut. And so we've got all these antibiotics in the food
That's
system.
the big one. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So we're not necessarily taking an antibiotic or a medication, and people go, "Oh, I'm not taking anything." But if you're not eating 100% grass fed, that is from start to finish grass fed meat, and wherever else you're getting antibiotics, I mean, I think about 70% of them are in the food system. So they can be taken, or if you're taking antibiotics, these products can be taken alongside them and they're 100% resilient. So the doctors do make recommendations to take a probiotic now, which is great alongside a medication, but we know you're going to get about 10% of it, and here
Yeah.
you're going to get 100% of it. So another
Amazing.
great. Yeah.
So this is straight from Harvard University. I mean, you can spend a whole day researching the connection with probiotics and mental health, because remember, that's the overarching topic for today. Brain health, mood health. So probiotics, they boost mood, cognitive function, they lower stress and anxiety. It's just really phenomenal. It's a whole new area we're going to continue exploring here in the next decade. And particularly, they've been helpful in depression, stress, anxiety. So obviously, work with your doctor. Joyce and I are just giving you some pointers here, some topics that you can look deeper into with if you're working with a psychiatrist, psychologist, or any kind of doctor that you might be able to add to your protocol. So where does saffron fit into this picture then, Joyce? How can you, is this something you could take together? Maybe in the morning you take your probiotic, probiotic, and then saffron later in the day.
Yeah, so the saffron is a completely different functioning
It's
of a
not a
product.
bacteria; it's an herb.
It's not including, right, it's not bacteria based or sourced. The saffron actually comes from, so saffron, is actually the crocus sativus flower, and saffron are those little tiny threads in there, and those are the bioactive or the active ingredients. So we know saffron in general has been used for centuries, for many, many things, for foods. Cleopatra used it like to sprinkle around her castle to give good energy and good scents there, good smells. In her baths, people will bathe with it. You can do a saffron water. But what we've put in this formula is a specialized form of that, a pharmaceutical, not a pharmaceutical, but I'm sorry, I shouldn't, it's not a
Yeah.
pharmaceutical. Actually studied against with pharmaceuticals, but it's a clinically studied ingredient called Affron, and
Okay.
it's standardized so that the leptochrysalides, which are the active ingredient, are standardized. And Affron has been used in clinical studies at a 28 milligram dose, which is what we have in our product, to help elevate mood. So dealing with anxiety, depression. So we know that it helps for people just to feel better, and then it works quickly.
Right.
So we're not talking about clinically depressed. We're talking about studies that have been done with menopausal women, also been done with teenagers recently, interestingly enough, because of all the things they've been dealing with.
Right.
There was a clinical study. It also can help with sleep. Now, our product also has Rhodiola 5 Plus, which is an adaptogen that gives you energy.
Okay.
So we know it traditionally came from the Vikings, and they used it, the cosmonauts, to actually give their soldiers like the mental edge and focus. So we know that part of the formula helps with like mental tasking and energy. So that's why you would want to take it in the morning, where the saffron is really elevating mood. And then it's got some sensory ashwagandha, kind of just to balance it out. And so that it also impacts your cortisol, but also helps, impact stress in your body.
Amazing. So again, saffron's an herb versus the spore probiotic, whole different concept there. And as you mentioned, saffron's been used throughout thousands and thousands of years, and we have the research to back it up. It's actually known as the most expensive spice in the world, right? So that might throw people away when they might throw people off when they hear that and be like, "Well, how much does this product cost?" You want to touch on that? You only need a little bit, pinch, right?
You're exactly right. Very small amount. Again, we're putting 28 milligrams. We have priced this so effectively because a lot of what we would call a neurotropic, they could be very expensive. This is a little over $1 a day.
Okay.
You guys always have amazing prices there, but I think the retail price on this is $35.99 and
Uh-huh.
lasts you a month. And most people start seeing those benefits because, again, the clinical studies were done within 28 days. Um, Interesting how I mentioned pharmaceuticals, but actually, that saffron, was used in a clinical study with Prozac, against Prozac. And
Wow.
it showed an imiprimin or imiprimin showing the same mood elevating results without any side effects. So that's a pretty amazing thing for a
Right.
person who would like to not go on some sort of a medication. But if you work with your doctor, it can also be used. It has safety to be used alongside one as well,
Right. If
depending on.
you're if you're buying like truckfuls of saffron, just pure bulk herb, that's the most expensive thing of all time, of course. But you
Yes.
can even see in this formula, there's only 3 herbs. Saffron's actually at the bottom. You only need 28 milligrams here. Like I said, it's a little pinch per 2 capsules. Number one's actually the rhodiola and then the ashwagandha. You have 350 milligrams of rhodiola per 2 capsules. Can you quickly give a recap on rhodiola? It's one of my favorite herbs. Rhodiola rosea.
Sure. Well, there's several. I think there's over 200 species of rhodiola, but this is the only clinically studied one. So it's rhodiola 5 plus. Again, it's standardized. We're using the amount that's in the clinical studies. It is native to like Russia. It comes from the Xinjiang province of China, so right along the Russian, and that's where it
Oh,
originally came from. Um, but again, it gives you an energy boost within about 30 minutes that can last up to 4 to 6 hours. So it's a really good, it's not overstimulating because again, it's an adaptogen, so it's not going to overstimulate your body, but it's going to give you energy. So
got
what
it.
else would you like to share? I bet you have some cool stuff about
Oh, you
rodeo.
nailed it. I mean, it's been used in Olympic athletes through history. It's just a powerful herb for performance, for brain focus, for memory, concentration, ability to get things done. So it's like a classic adaptogen. I remember even in school when we were in botanical class, that's a powerful, powerful adaptogenic herb, which is good for stress. That includes mental stress and
Absolutely.
depression, distress, emotional distress. So thanks for highlighting that product. Even though it says saffron on the bottle, we also have the ashwagandha and the rhodiola in there. I think that's important for people to walk away with. And by the way, in our store here, Healthy Habit Health Foods, by the way, we're located right here at Bethany Home Road and 7th Street. That's Youtheory might be the only one that I can think of right now that even offers a saffron product. There might be one other one. We definitely haven't had them on the podcast, but Youtheory is one of the only saffrons you can even get here on the shelf. So it's not an easy herb to come by. So I'm glad
Yeah.
we talked about that today.
Yeah.
Joyce, I want to hear, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say that we've had such elevated sales on our saffron, and
Really?
I because of people needing that uplift in mood and also the mental focus, feeling the brain
Wow.
fog, and all the things that happen with stress. This is a great way to support it. We find that students love to take it, not young. We don't recommend it for younger people, but college age students to take it again, like for that mental focus um, and multitasking things, although we're not all good multitaskers, regardless. But we
Yeah,
want the Saffron. We don't want any old saffron because they won't have the same level. Um,
got it.
and they're not clinically studied, so we're not able to tie them into those particular studies.
I hope you guys have been enjoying this episode so far with Joyce Moran of Youtheory, Sales and Education at Youtheory. Over 18 years of experience in this field, folks. So we're getting gems of knowledge here from Joyce. And chances are you haven't tried that stack. Correct me if I'm wrong. Come up to me and correct me and tell me, yeah, I've tried this. But chances are most people haven't tried that. We call them a stack when you're combining 2 supplements or more together with a Spore Probiotic and the Saffron to address mental health, depression, anxiety from a supplement perspective. Do you want to add anything to that? That's a unique combination, those two.
No, just it's interesting you're talking about the brain stacking because that's kind of a new concept for people.
Stacking, yeah, that's right.
Right. You're not going to get everything in one supplement, but you're wanting to address these different things and the way their mechanisms of action in each individual product. So
Yeah.
uh, I wholeheartedly agree with you on that.
And like I said, the saffron product has the rhodiola and the ashwagandha in there as well. But Youtheory also offers a standalone ashwagandha, correct?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
it's just
And
going to be stronger, it's going to be more potent, and that's just by itself, no other herbs with the other ashwagandha option?
yes, that's exactly right. So if you're just looking for ashwagandha benefits, we highly recommend that. When you're looking for, addressing stress and sleep and even endurance and all the great things, because in that particular product, we're using the KSM 66. And that is the gold standard with 24 human clinicals on the benefits. We're using the clinically studied dose. We also add 400 extra milligrams in that product of
Hmm.
organic ashwagandha root powder. So you're getting even more efficacy, more benefits. It's all organic, all sourced from southern India, which is where you want to get your ashwagandha. And the only other thing it has in it, it's got 20 milligrams of ginger root extract just to help absorb the nutrients, just to absorb the ashwagandha.
Phenomenal. Maybe next time we have Joyce on, we'll touch on the B12, B6, K2, D3, which we have here on the shelf at the store. That's a whole nother discussion that we can dive into. The deficiency of B vitamins may be a root cause of mental health problems, different types of depression, anxiety, and things of that nature. Same with vitamin D. People don't go outside enough. That's another big issue. So we'll save that for the next time we have Joyce on. And we're coming to the tail end here, Joyce. Give us your thoughts. Give us a little recap for what we discussed today. There's people shopping in the store right now. What do you want to leave them with here in about a minute about what we talked about in Youtheory?
Well, first of all, just to maybe listen to your gut
There you go.
because your gut's telling you a lot of things.
Yeah.
And, if again, if you're having concerns regarding I'm not going to call them, I'll call them emotional wellness because mental health just doesn't sound as lovely.
Right.
Maybe starting with your gut is a really good starting point to address any issues there. And then if you want to add on something else like the ashwagandha or the saffron, those are add-in things as well. And with any of our products or any other ones, you're wanting to have those clinically studied ingredients with the the backing behind them and the dosing, the correct
Yeah.
dosing. So we want to make sure that. But I think it's amazing. You have everything there that everybody needs in the store, which is great. You have the education, you have all your testing there, so people can really, they can come in there and feel like they're almost at a complete wellness center. And we're grateful that you have these items from Youtheory, and we partner with you for that.
Come on in, folks, and get your hands on that Saffron. You're not going to find too many companies that offer Saffron or even Spore Probiotics. So thank you, Joyce, for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a great rest of the day.
And you too.